Welcome to the Friday FSU Weather Show. This is student meteorologist Matthew Wisnett, and outside at Doak right now, it's very sunny outside. We're sitting in those mid-90s, still a very hot day to be outside. Not a lot of clouds to really protect you, and we're seeing those mid-90s across the region. Tallahassee 94, Thomasville a little bit cooler at 91, but overall we're sitting just around that 90 mark for some of our southern areas, while our more west areas sitting in those mid-90s. Now, rain-wise, we do have a little bit of some showers to the south, but for the most part, it's a lot of ground clutter, a lot of controlled burns going on right now. So for the most part, we're staying relatively dry. Now, out in the tropics, we're watching Tropical Storm Gabrielle. Look, it's got itself a little bit more together today, unfortunately, as we are still seeing about 50 miles per hour. Still trying to get itself together, but you can see we're still having some development right here, so it still could get stronger overall. Now our headlines, we're tracking the tropics, warmer weather for family weekend this weekend, and Fierce Forces Friday with your theme park of the week. All this and more on FSU Weather.
Good evening, everyone. I'm student meteorologist Daniela Streety here with Matthew Wisnett, and look at us. We got the memo today. We are matching royal blue today.
Yeah, I got the blue, you know. It's blue skies everywhere right now. It's pretty chill outside.
Also, I guess we're trying to manifest those cooler temperatures.
Yes, it's still way too hot outside, unfortunately. I mean, mid-90s at middle towards end of September is just...
Fall starts on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. 21st of September.
For who? Because it ain't fall here. It's mid-90s. It's hot. It's sunny. It's still humid. I mean, it's too hot.
It's just an excuse to still get iced pumpkin spice lattes at this point.
You know, I'm not a coffee person, but I've heard they're the thing to do, and they're the thing to drink in the fall, I should say. Is I've heard they're just overall pretty good, but I'm just not a huge pumpkin person nor a coffee person.
Got to get in the fall spirit some way, shape, or form.
I'm trying. That's why I watch football. Football is a fall sport, but you know, here in Florida, it's just been an absolute drag, unfortunately, with the hot weather.
Well, and another thing, I mean, thankfully for us, usually what happens in the fall is a ramp up in the tropics. And I mean, we are starting to see that just a little bit, and we'll get into that in just a second. But yeah, I mean, thankfully nothing has been going on, and dare I say, quiet. But it is ramping up a little bit in the Atlantic. We have Tropical Storm Gabrielle. It's right now at the 5 p.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. It's sitting at 50 miles an hour, 1,004 millibars, moving west-northwest around 12 miles per hour. So moving very slow, but we can see it's very disorganized. Not really a whole lot put together right now. And the second disturbance we have to watch is off the coast of Africa. Not expected to develop within the next couple of days, and it's still a slight chance of development within the next week. So still lots of time to figure out what's going to exactly happen with that, but it's still a lot of disorganized showers and thunderstorms that have yet to really develop into a system. But that is really the sum of the tropics right now. And if we take a look at this models for Gabrielle, its consensus is going to make that northeast turn and avoiding all land, thankfully. So we're going to have another fish storm for our hurricane season so far, and it's projected to potentially reach Category 1 status by the end of this weekend, as we can see the cone again making that shift northeast. And look, 105 miles per hour seems to be the peak that it could see right now, but it has been battling a lot of drier air and has struggled to keep itself together. So that is the update right now for the tropics. Thankfully, all is good. No threats to the continental United States, or at least for Bermuda for now. We're going to see some very slight impacts potentially, but that determines on how west or east Gabrielle decides to turn. But now we're going to move on to our local with Matt.
Yeah, it's looking beautiful outside here in Tallahassee. We still have that gorgeous sun still up in the sky. Now, we're sitting really in around that 90 mark for a lot of areas. Bainbridge 93, Tallahassee starting to cool down into those upper 80s, but it is still very hot to be outside. You can see right now actually 94, so it just depends on where you are in Tallahassee. It might be cooler in some areas, hotter in others. Thomasville 91, Valdosta 92, so it's still a scorcher to be outside. Now, our highs, we saw today 95. I mean, in September, that's just really hot. That doesn't include your feels like temperature, so it could have been triple digits earlier today. Our average 88, so way above our normal. We weren't luckily close to our record of 99 set in 2005, but it is still a hot time to really be outside. Now our radar, we have a lot of ground clutter. We do have a couple of storms down to our south and all the way out to our east, we're seeing some small storms, not really too major, not a lot of thunderstorms, but still some areas seeing some rain. And as we look to the future here, we can see pretty much will clear out tonight, but by your Saturday, could have a couple of storms push through, and then by Sunday morning, maybe in our western regions, have a couple of clouds, maybe inhibiting maybe a sunrise or two for some. But if you move into tonight, we'll see clear skies overall. 60s will be the story for most of the area. The coast a little bit cooler thanks to that sea breeze, or a little more moderate, I should say, in those 70s. But overall, still in those upper 60s to low 70s for a lot of areas, and still going to be a very hot day ahead for tomorrow. Tonight, here in Tallahassee, 66 with some clouds. So unfortunately, maybe not the best night to go out stargazing. Not a lot of winds, though, to really keep it any cooler. Now tomorrow, 93 degrees. Very hot outside with lots of sunshine. If you're going to be at the football game, you're definitely going to want to have some sunscreen, drink lots of water. It's going to be a very hot game as we play Kent State tomorrow. Now, our rain chances, unfortunately, we're not going to improve that much tomorrow. Maybe a stray shower or two, slowly popping up on Tuesday to 20%, but look at this, by Friday, 40%. We haven't had that high of a chance in, I want to say, a couple weeks right now. It has been a long time since we've seen real rain chances here in the Big Bend region. Now, for your pool forecast tomorrow, it's going to be pretty nice overall. We're going to see 88 for noon, and if you're not going to the game, you're sitting out maybe watching some football at the pool, 91 degrees, those lower 90s with a lot of sunshine, so make sure to apply some sunblock tomorrow. Panama City, you can see for your weekend, Saturday is going to be a little bit of a warmer day. Sunday, we could see some isolated storms, so maybe a better day to go on Saturday opposed to Sunday if you're taking the family out, with a little bit more of a breeze on Sunday, which might aid some of those afternoon storms. Now for your 7-day, we're slowly going to start cooling off into those real low 90s. And by Wednesday, even in those low 90s, but by Thursday, Friday, the rain might arrive once again and maybe cool us down a little bit. Rain we need so badly. But Danielle, is the rest of Florida seeing any rain, or is it still really dry across the state?
So far, I mean, Miami in South Florida has been the story this week of rain across Florida. They've been really the only ones that have been getting a lot of rain this past week. And today it even seems like they're getting a little bit of sunshine. Miami right now at the camera, it's like got some cloud cover, but again, that sun is just peeking out in the mid 80s right now. Tampa is looking pretty clear with some sparse cumulus clouds. It's staying in those upper 80s. Panama City Beach staying at the hot spot across these cameras, sitting at 90. Orlando, clear skies, beautiful weather to go across Florida. And as we take a look across the temperatures, we see a little bit of those scattered showers and storms in Miami, keeping those temperatures in the low 80s, but 80s and 90s is really the trend. Is see Florida is red right now. So that is still going to be the story going into the next several days. Across I-95, only about a stray shower. Most of those thunderstorms are going to stay over Alligator Alley for the most part. So again, those showers are going to be offshore and not a whole lot to be concerned about besides Miami, maybe getting those stray showers. Central Florida, much of the same stain, mostly clear. Got some showers offshore on the Atlantic coast. And for North Florida, we got those potentials of the I-75 corridor. We got a pop-up shower storm sitting just south of Taylor County. But a majority of the Big Bend and South Georgia, we are staying fairly clear with the exceptions of some popcorn showers here. So as we take a look at the future radar, we're going to see some clouds passing over the weekend and some rain, but mostly clear and dry as it has been. So nothing too much of change from what we have seen lately. But this weekend, if you plan to go to Miami, it's going to be pretty good beach weather before the start of your work week gets a little bit soggy as you get those rain chances amping back up. But those mid to upper 80s is what you'll see in the morning, or excuse me, in the afternoon, and those 70s, what you're going to see in the morning. Fort Myers, clearer weather, drier weather, but again, that chances of rain is going to develop on Monday as well. Again, seeing those 90s, so not a lot of cooler temperatures to be expected. And same goes for Tampa, unfortunately, if you're going to go out to Busch Gardens this weekend. It's going to be hot, so make sure to hydrate and get that sunblock out because the sun will be out and so will that heat. In Orlando, much the same. You're planning to go to Disney. I know a couple of friends this weekend are going to Disney. Got those rain chances remaining slim, which is good in that case. But again, that's going to be pretty hot in the morning, so keep mind of that. Jacksonville, we're sitting mostly sunny skies, sitting in those upper 80s and upper 80s again for Sunday. But again, those rain chances are potentially going to ramp back up to start your work week on Monday. And expect those temperatures also to ramp back up after that rainy day, potentially in Jax. So going into Pensacola on the Panhandle, seeing a lot of those lower 90s and upper 80s going into your weekend, starting off your work week on the warmer and drier side, much as what the Panhandle has seen for the last couple of weeks. So again, those upper 80s on Monday, seeing those morning lows mostly copy paste, seeing in the low to mid 70s. So lots of dry weather to go around. Hopefully soon we will see some spare showers and thunderstorms to kind of get a little bit of a change, maybe a little bit of a cool down as well, especially today. It's been quite hot across the state of Florida. Now we'll pass it back over to Matt about the Southeast.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar story for most of the Southeast as it is here in Florida. A couple areas getting rain, but for the most part, it is hot across the region. I mean, Little Rock is really the outlier at 74, but you can see 81, 93 Montgomery, Atlanta 91. So it is very hot to be outside right now across the Southeast, except for maybe a few areas that are a little bit cooler than the rest, unfortunately. And Little Rock is going to be a little bit on the drier side, or not drier side, the cooler side, I should say, because of the fact of these storms that have slowly been moving through, keeping the temperatures relatively cool, more like a fall temperature, I should say, for them, while we do have scattered storms for the rest of the Southeast from Alabama all the way to eastern portions of Georgia going into South Carolina. We're seeing some really scattered rain, and that's really going to help this drought area north of Memphis, where they have an extreme drought area to watch at this point. So it's just very drought concerning for much of the Southeast, and unfortunately it won't be probably for at least another week before we can see considerable rainfall that will really help alleviate those drought concerns. So by Saturday, for the start of your football weekend, I should say, for the most part pretty clear. Might have a couple of stray showers across eastern Georgia and South Carolina. Starts to clear out for the most part, and not a lot of storms to really interrupt your plans to start Sunday, as well as we can see a couple offshore here in southern Louisiana. Might have some storms as well, but moving through your Sunday starts to really kick up here in Alabama and Mississippi, where we could see more storms overall, inhibiting your start to your Monday morning and your work week next week. Now tonight's forecast, we're going to see Little Rock a little bit more moderate at 70, but everywhere else is going to be in those lower 60s for the most part. Clouds might keep a couple of areas more moderate compared to others, as we'll see with Charleston, Atlanta in those 70 and 68 marks. So a little bit on the warmer side than some areas, but tomorrow's still going to be a hot day. Shreveport 96, Jackson 94, Montgomery 95, mid 90s. With the story for much of the heart of the Southeast, as it's just going to be a very hot one to be outside tomorrow. Birmingham, we'll see those storms on Sunday, cool us down just a smidge, and it'll actually stay pretty cool to start your work week next week, as we'll be in those low 90s with lots of sunshine. Now for Charlotte, a little bit of a different story, unfortunately. We'll cool down a little bit, but not a lot of rain. See 89, 85, 85, and 86. Very warm, and not really got to cool down too much to that rain. Though it's a little bit more moderate compared to maybe somewhere like New Orleans, where we're seeing those 90s right now, 92, 91, getting into those 80s to start the work week next week because of that rain, but rebounding right back into that 90-degree mark. Now for Nashville, still in those 90s, unfortunately, but rain on the way to start the work week next week, where we'll rebound, or fall down, I should say, into those middle 80s for the most part, and staying relatively nice. But Daniela, with everything going on in the Southeast with just a little bit of hit or miss storms, what can we expect across the National?
Yeah, so across the country, we have started to calm things down a little bit in terms of the rain and those flash floods that we have been seeing in SoCal and across the plains as well. But those temperatures have not done much of a change. You see 63 here in Bismarck, fairly mild for them, and 81 in Salt Lake City, Utah. Of course, we take a look into the Southeast and a little bit of the Mid-Atlantic. Again, seeing a lot of those 80s and 90s, a lot of those reds and oranges, with the exceptions of a little bit of yellow and green spots, and that's because there's a lot of showers and thunderstorms within those areas of Arkansas and Mississippi as well. Again, we can see that here on the radar. That's why they're seeing a little bit of those cooler temperatures, but again, most of the Southeast is staying dry. But some areas isolated will see some cool down. Again, we have a low pressure system up north towards the plains, and it's giving them some rain relief as well. And then in California on the west coast, those remnants of Mario are starting to dissipate, so that little bit of rain that they got yesterday is pretty much over with and done. And again, those severe risks of severe weather is staying relatively low, with the exceptions of a couple of strong to severe thunderstorms in Kansas and Nebraska going into today. But tomorrow, a lot of it is going to stay non-severe. So just some isolated showers and storms are going to be anticipated across the continental United States. And again, we can push this through the weekend. Again, those pop-up showers and storms are possible going from west to east. And that is about it in terms of rain for this weekend. No severe threat, thankfully, but it will give some relief for a lot of those drought conditions that Matthew was just mentioning, especially in the southeast, where they can see about 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches of rain this weekend, which will be plenty for that relief. But do mind those flash flood warnings if too much rain accumulates in too little time. So that is one thing to look out for. But those temperatures are going to stay mostly above average, with the exceptions of a little cold pool towards the plains in the middle of the country as well. So other than that, we're going to see a lot of what we have been seeing. And going into tonight, we're going to see a lot of those 70s and 60s across the country. 52 in Denver, on a little bit on the cooler side, but it will remain cloudy. Again, we're going to see those 60s in the mid-Atlantic, 67 in Washington, D.C., 54 in Boston. Maine will actually see some cooler weather tonight as they have some freeze watches in effect. So good for them finally getting a feel of fall. I'm almost jealous, actually. We see 52 in Seattle, 57 in Albuquerque, 71 in San Antonio, and again, those 60s and 70s going into the southeast as well for tonight. But tomorrow, again, we're going to see a lot what we have been seeing, unfortunately, is those lava pools across Texas and the southeast, even going into the Midwest as well, staying well into those 90s, even 95 there in San Antonio, 88 in Miami, in those 60s, even 84 in Billings. Check that out. That is very warm for them, and hopefully they will anticipate a cool down soon as well. But now we're going to toss it over back to Matt for Theme Park of the Week. What you got?
Oh yeah, it's time to strap in, everybody, as we take a trip down south to Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay, home of some really famous roller coasters. We have Iron Gwazi here in the background, 91-degree drop to start. So very steep, very tough ride, I've heard from some of my friends here at FSU Weather. But tomorrow, 94 degrees, partly cloudy, definitely going to need that sunblock as well as that water bottle to stay hydrated. Now, if you're going out for tomorrow, the best time to really go to any of the rides will be, well, any part of the day. It's going to be really sunny for the most part. Get into those 90s probably afternoon. So probably definitely going to want to hydrate, especially from 1 to 3. That's the hottest part of the day, and it's going to be very hot as well. But if you're looking for a cooler start to the day, definitely try to get out early when the park opens, as we'll see those upper 70s. Now, as we look at the radar here, could have a shower or two possibly pop up tomorrow night. Especially when you're in St. Petersburg, we might have a shower or two pop up. Won't last super long, but overall going to be a relatively quiet weekend for Tampa. Not too much rain expected in the Bay Area, so going to be a pleasant time to be out at the park, strapping on, riding those roller coasters, feeding the giraffes. Something I've always wanted to do, feed a giraffe. They're just so tall, so big. Something that would be such an incredible experience. And you can see Monday we might see some storms show back up. So if you're definitely going to go to the theme parks, you're definitely going to want to try to go this weekend, as we'll see those rain chances really ramp back up, and maybe even partially maybe a little cool down to start next week for Tampa around the area. Now, Danielle, what else are we looking at here for your Fierce Forces Friday today?
Yeah, so welcome to our second segment of Fierce Forces Friday. And today, since we're still in hurricane season, we're going to talk about storm surge, which is one of the deadliest threats that we see with hurricanes making landfall, especially on the coastal United States. So what is storm surge? It's an abnormal rise of water beyond typical tides that we would usually see. Highest storm surge ever recorded was roughly 42 feet above sea level during Tropical Storm Mahina in 1899. That is quite impressive. I would not want to be wherever that was. Steepness of the coastlines impact the wave height of the surge as well, and it's caused by hurricane force winds pushing water on shore. So that is why it's such a huge impact, especially with those larger hurricanes like we saw with Milton and Helene last year. They caused significant storm surge to the Florida Gulf Coast and Big Bend areas as well. And again, here's another example where we actually have storm surge versus storm tide. So storm surge is what I was just explaining. It doesn't account for the tides, but storm tide is storm surge taking account of the higher and low tides as well. So there's a graphic here explaining that. So a normal high tide would roughly be around this level, and then storm surge roughly 15 feet in this example, are sitting a lot higher. But if you also take into account a high tide while storm surge is occurring and those waves coming in, you see it's a lot taller, and that's going to flood houses, unfortunately, which you can see here as an example with Hurricane Katrina back in 2005. And also last year with Hurricane Helene, if you were watching the news with Hurricane Helene in Milton, you saw a lot of that, unfortunately. And that's why it is so deadly. But now we're going to turn things back to home with the lifestyle, Matthew. So what can people do this weekend?
I mean, there's going to be plenty to do as we're going to have great weather to be out and about. If you're outside of EOAS, you can see sunny skies for the most part across the area. And for your late night forecast, well, clear skies, nothing to really worry about tonight. If you're going to be out late, maybe getting a late night dinner or hanging out with some friends out camping, maybe you're trying to get outside after a long work week, definitely going to have plenty of time and great weather to do that this week. Now for your dog walk forecast, definitely going to want to try to get out earlier tomorrow as it will heat up pretty fast. By 11 o'clock, we could see temperatures in those mid-80s, and concrete can be even warmer sometimes. So definitely going to want to make sure to be out early if you are walking your dog. Tallahassee, nothing to be harming those flight plans overall. Now, Dallas-Fort Worth, because of that rain, we might have a couple of delays there, but everyone else looking very green right now. So very easy time to fly out. Green means go if you're going to fly. Tomorrow, we'll see 93 degrees, going to be a hot day to be outside. Make sure to hydrate, wear some sunscreen. For your forecast tomorrow, we might have some clouds early in the game, but by the time we get into that second half, those clouds will really dissipate. And maybe by the end of the game, when you have a little bit more shade, will be just a tad cooler, but still going to be a very hot game to be at, so make sure to hydrate, don't dehydrate. Now, backyard forecast for tomorrow, we're going to be chilling at 93 degrees, so very hot. Definitely got to try to go in the pool if you have a chance, as it's just a very hot week ahead. And it's not really going to change too much, unfortunately. Now, if you're at the beach, as we said earlier, definitely going to have some storms possible on Sunday. So maybe try to go on Saturday as you'll have more time to do more outdoor activities without getting any rain interfering with it. Now, for your weekend forecast, we'll be in those low to mid 90s to start, but then by Tuesday, we really start getting back up into those low 90s again with more sunshine all around. Danielle, what do you plan to do this weekend with such great weather?
Well, I will say tomorrow AMS is going to go to a lake cleanup at a park near campus tomorrow. So we are going to do that. We're also going to have a tailgate, have a great time. Also got to take it to the game. So I will have a very busy day tomorrow outside in the sun. So I got to make sure to go home and hydrate and get prepared for that.
Yes, I will be at the football game too, and it will be a hot one. So definitely got to hydrate beforehand, as it's just going to be a really hot game. Need sunscreen too. Try not to get sunburnt like last week. That was pretty bad overall. So, I mean, it's just going to be a really hot week in general just to deal with things. So just trying to deal with things overall and just trying to, play some sports, hang out before, the rain really shows up overall. So
yeah,
just trying to chillax. But as we look at our socials here, you can follow us on Twitter, or X I should say, at FSU Weather.
And you can also like us on Facebook at FSU Weather.
Love to have fun here at FSU Weather. So don't forget to follow us on Instagram at FSU Weather.
And if you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube at FSU Weather.
And last but not least, don't forget to follow us on TikTok at FSU Weather.
Here's your last look at the 7-day.